Hello. It's my second time here, like last year, so I'm getting very good vibes. Last but not least, thank you for joining my talk. It's really glad to see some familiar faces and some new. Hopefully, you get some new stuff out of this talk. Maybe not. There will be a lot of AI, everybody. I think the conference that will not talk about AI will be the most wanted in a couple of months, possibly. I'm this guy. I'm head of QA at Snappi. It's a domain that it's actually transforming through AI. I will not talk about the domain more specifically. We are going to talk about how prompt engineering, it's a skill set that the engineers should possess right now. This talk, more or less, I have been doing this talk in the last couple of months, maybe last year as well, a little bit differently. But the whole idea comes with, the prompt engineering. And what do we mean? How we can guide our LLMs to be more efficient, how we can do cost reduction in tokens, a lot of buzzwords coming around the AI. So the engineer should possess this skill set, how we can query eventually our models to be more efficient and to the point. We're going to see some techniques today about prompt engineering, how we can craft these prompts to be more efficient for our teams, and hopefully we'll do a Q&A. I'm a little bit anxious because I have a lot of people that I know it's a very big and bad audience for bad, meaning, oh my God, what I'm going to present today, like a judge. So, understanding prompt engineering, where we are today, right? We are talking about AI assistants. All of our engineers, day-to-day, they are using these coding agents with different, let's say, models. What we want to do is to make sure we have our business operation, you've likely heard about it. It's like the center of the AI, let's say. It's a hot topic, and that's why a lot of talks around this. But what does it mean when we are saying AI for business operations? Where do we have the AI tools? So understanding prompt engineering is really vital if we want to fully use all these tools effectively, right? So meaning we'll see a little bit later about techniques, how we can make our prompts a little bit better in context, what is the context window. We're going to talk about all this. Fundamental knowledge, theoretical. It's 3 o'clock, I know. I hope you got your coffee. So let's explain a little bit what is prompt engineering. Most of the people in the audience know. It's, as we said, having clear instructions, right? Right now, we're talking a lot about agentic systems. How do you guide these agentic systems? You write your skills, for example. You have an agentic system based on Claude, for example. And how do you write your skills? Because these systems are likely have a different output each time. We'll talk about the context window. How do you pass in each prompt the information? And how do you craft this information to the model? It's like guiding, of course, the AI towards getting the best results. A junior engineer may not know about these techniques and they're saying, oh, please fix this for me. It can be very vague, or they don't understand the architecture of the system. So meaning we need to guide these models towards these best results. So the quality of everything has to do with the skills of the engineer, of how the engineer is querying these systems. It's very smart, right? AI, it's really smart. If everybody's playing around it, you can prototype something very quickly. It can perform amazing tasks like automating things, but it requires these clear instructions in order to get the most or the best result. So the prompt engineering, it's not a new technique, as we said. It's a practice carefully crafting these instructions for the system to guide this AI toward the best possible results. It's about learning to communicate effectively with your chosen language model, transforming a general purpose tool into a specialized one. And I think it's a skill set that is going to be needed from now on in the fields of engineering. Now, to understand a little bit better, we need to understand the needs. First, we need to identify requirements in terms of business. We need to identify technical requirements. So this is more or less what an AI engineer should do, or an AI prompt engineer. We need to start with understanding the needs, craft the prompts effectively, or create your skills effectively around these prompts. Develop specific questions for AI. They can refine the prompt, so it's an iteration, someone would say. And we need to understand the business requirement and then identify the best way to ask the AI for assistance, right? So this specialist, because an AI prompt engineer is something new, right? You have seen a lot of job posts, I think, in the market saying we need a vibe coder or a prompt engineer. I have seen that a lot. Or AI engineer, right? So these specialists understand how the specific AI model processes information and what kind of language or methods in order to make sure we have the best outcome. Then we evaluate the output. We assess what the model is responding back to us, or the coding assistant, what it's actually implementing or developing in our framework. And then we do an iteration. So each time we pass the same information. We want to keep history, of course. We'll talk about the context window, but the LLM model needs to know the history. So we're passing each time when we get a new prompt, the same history or the previous history to understand and get and fine-tune a better result. So it's an iteration process overall. Now, it's not new, right? Do you know zero shot? Anyone? Techniques like this? You have heard about it? Most probably you are using them, but you don't know the terminology. But or a few shot technique or chain of thought, you are guiding your LLM a little bit more, or through the skills or through prompting. The context, analogy, hybrid. So there are different techniques that you can apply and do an iteration. And AI, it's a playground right now, so you need to play around these techniques to get the best results. And the AI model sits down. You can have everything here. We'll talk a little bit. I think I'm going to talk about this, but zero means I don't give any example. I'm writing my skill MD. I'm saying, develop this, whatever. Or I can create an agent. What this agent I want to do is just read my code base and, I don't know, fix my code or fix my unit test, whatever. One example, I can give one example just to set the tone to the LLM model, what to do. Don't create your work around the AI model and, I think a lot of engineers have the bad habit right now to say, they know what to do, these agents, right? They have very good knowledge about what we're going to do, but they don't know what the engineer wants to do. So this is the whole idea of creating these prompting techniques or a few shots, like creating multiple examples to guide the tone of your model. Now I think we have a video. Can we play the video? Someone? Someone? No? Who is up there? You can demonstrate. Yeah, just 1 second. It's a good movie. Because it's the last talk, Friday. Let's spice things up a little bit with a video, right? And we don't have sound. But we have subtitles, so we're good. That's it. Thank you very much. No, I'm kidding. We have some few minutes to continue. I have a bad habit in my talks to do some jokes, sorry. Maybe it's Friday, but I don't want to be like so, professional. Let's see. Should I move on? Give me green light. Should I don't do the video? Move on? So this, or I can wait a little bit. Before waiting, this video is a nice way to understand what prompt engineering is. I think the whole idea is that it's something that, okay, we'll skip the video, it's fine. I will talk about it. So it's saying that it's like creating a recipe. So the engineer is guiding actually the LLM model, how it's going to behave. So the whole video is saying that if you have a good input, you have the best output as well. And that's the whole idea. And I think we are skipping this because nowadays we see the benefits, even if you are very abstract in the way that you are communicating with your models. Engineers have the bad habit to say, okay, LLM would do the magic for me. I don't want to describe so many details, or if they see a skill.md file, the markdowns and everything with detail, how to fix their code or implement something new, they are becoming a little bit lazy. And we shouldn't be lazy, right? So prediction-based means, before understanding how prompt engineering works, it's ideal and essential to grasp the concept of prediction. So this is the core heart, let's say, of the large language models, the LLMs, are designed to predict always the next token. I think I had a talk before with the OpenAI, how they're describing how the models are actually basing the output, cutting down the prompt in tokens and sentences based on the words. They can be words, for example, the tokens, and they can be part of words, or even they can be characters. So this is the whole process, how they are doing their prediction. It's analyzing vast amounts of text data to learn language patterns, relationship between tokens. So when you input a prompt, the model generates a response by predicting its subsequent token. Now, it's a token-based, the first example that we see here. In prompt engineering, it's crucial to understand how tokens work in the background. It's a great way to understand what a token is by experimenting. I would give you, if you can experiment with playgrounds, like OpenAI's playground. So there are a lot of questions that in the past, in the start of the AI era, would do a bad prediction. I had an example. For example, you have a strawberry, which contains 3 R letters. I don't have it here. And you are actually querying the LLM how many R it's in the word. And by the way, we call incorrect answers. In the beginning, it was giving an incorrect answer, which is called hallucination. So it refers to instances where an AI model generates information that it's either incorrect or fabricated or are not grounded in the provided input, right? So someone needs to validate. This is what I'm saying. They are doing prediction and they are token-based. And we are talking about the context window, right? When you are talking to the LLM, you have the context window. Each time you create a new session, for example, in your Cloud Code, in any other assistant, you create a context window. It defines the maximum number of tokens that the model can process, right, at one time. I think the question here is how do we make our, let's say, our coding assistant more efficient, for example, how we can consume less tokens or can be, let's say, have a cost reduction on the way that we are using the LLMs. So we need to stick, it's like having a memory in your LLM, right? So this context window represents the working memory of your model, whatever model that is, which is crucial for keeping the dialogue relevant to the ongoing context. It's a fixed limit, sometimes based on the model that you have. For example, in GPT-3, they had around 4,000 tokens, 4,096 tokens, I think. Within this limit, the entire interaction must fit for the model to function effectively. Now, the context window has some components. I think most of you are aware of that. We have the system prompt. The user prompt is how you're querying your LLM model, a conversation history, and the model output. This is whatever LLM model you are using. I think it's more or less the same. So the system prompt, it's a hidden prompt. You don't see, you don't interact with the system prompt. It's used to guide the model behavior, let's say, or the tone or the style in general. For example, may define rules to be more polite, your LLM model, to be more formal, for example. The user prompt is the input of the user, of course. You can understand. It can be a single question or instruction, it can be a skill. It's detailed information that the user is covering. We have the previous conversation history. Sometimes you need to pass the conversation history. In order to maintain some coherence, let's say. And we have the model output, of course, which is what the LLM is actually retrieving back to the user. Now, the prompt engineering, it's an emerging discipline. I think it's a skill nowadays for everyone. So how we can maximize the effectiveness of our models or the coding assistants, the diffusion models. So it's enhancing our understanding, as we said, of the capabilities. It's AI generated. It's not very well shown here. Sorry for that. So what prompt engineering can solve, right, from the image? We have the cultural nonsense. So it can solve a group of people, for example, which you cannot see here very nicely, highlighting how AI can misread the cultural context. We have the model bias, unpredictability, lack of real-world knowledge. They don't understand, though they are very effectively guided to understand nowadays. And the language nonsense, as we said. All of this is some of the problems that prompt engineering can solve. Now, the user prompt versus the system prompt. As we said, the user versus the system, it's a different thing. The system prompt is a hidden prompt. Sometimes it's another, someone would say system prompt engineering, what it is, and what it is the user prompt engineering. It's like a guide, let's say, I would say, to set the tone and behavior. There are two different categories when it comes to prompt engineering. I'll say later. It's the interactive prompt engineering, which is more about textual prompt engineering, and the interactual visual prompt engineering. It's more about managing the visual parts of how the LLM, if we can generate some visual, let's say, context out of it. Now, the user prompt is the IP, or the prompt engineer we send, and the visual IPV. And we have the user input, we have the system prompt, and everything all together interacts with our LLM model. So it's like communicating all the layers. And this clarity, it's really essential, not only for developers or engineers who design and refine these systems, also for stakeholders. They need to understand, end users, of how effective these models are in a real-world application or a real-world example. Now, there is the interactive prompt engineering. There is a framework that I have been discussing in the past. It's really great to understand a little bit more information about this. You will see a lot of sections that this framework is divided, but this is called Crafting AI Prompts Framework. This guy, it's the author of this framework. What he's actually saying is that you need to always adapt and improve. It's an iteration process, how you are communicating and effectively use LLM models. From crafting, adapting, improving, you're setting the acting role. Sometimes it's good, even if you build your skills, you have seen, like, I need to show to the LLM, I'm a senior engineer, so I need to set a tone how the coding assistant will develop something if it was a senior engineer. So you need to set a tone or a role, the format, the task, interactive, non-disclosure, and all this actually is pillars of how you are effectively communicating and creating your prompt for the model. So we'll talk, because I think I have only 8 minutes, and I don't want to be late and keep you late here. Let's talk about these techniques to understand a little bit the core framework, how we can master these strategies. It's really critical to enhance the way you're communicating with your models. We said about earlier the zero, single, and few shot prompting. These models are trained to vast amount of data. They are very, very nicely outputting, let's say, and the quality nowadays is pretty awesome, pretty amazing, right? But you need to make sure you set the tone, as we said, giving some examples, giving non-examples. You say whatever the LLM is actually dealing, it's very non-deterministic, someone would say. So you put the human in the loop, right? You put the actual engineer and the actual years of the engineer to guide your prompt effectively based on your experience, let's say. Now, the chain of thought prompting, it's one of these techniques. You know, here we say in the good old times at school, we had to explain how we arrived at the conclusion of our math solutions. You know, this also works very well when it comes to prompt engineering. It's called chain of thought. So you have your thoughts, you are piecing your thoughts together in order to guide a little bit your models. So you are breaking a complex question to actually smaller questions, let's say, or a series of steps, let's say. So instead of directly asking a huge question to your LLM model, you do a step-by-step explanation based on the response of the actual model. So the idea is it's a guidance. So you guide your model, and this is the actual chain of thought prompting. So imagine an example. This is us talking to the ChatGPT. I want to travel to home, but I do have 2 options. Which one is faster? Option 1, blah, blah, blah. So they are guiding, and they are asking our model with all the options provided. And you receive an incorrect answer, by the way. Here, I'm receiving option 1 is faster. It's incorrect. We don't know that, right? So always try to understand what the output is. However, if we apply here the same question, but I'm guiding a little bit more, or I'm taking a series of steps in order to guide my question to the LLM, we'll see the LLM is actually responding back differently. So we ask to do the same, the model. You'll discover that the answer is different from the previous one. Because you are having a different input to your LLM model, and that's the reason out of it. So we have the emotional prompting as well. The emotional is the tone of the emotional tone that you are giving to your model. It's also very critical to set the tone in terms of if the models are potentially capable of reacting to emotional signals. Please hurry up, I need to write a post on LinkedIn that I need to find a job, and you are very emotional, so you set an urgency to the model. It will output differently, for example. So it's also another technique. So let's finish with explaining some common mistakes around prompt engineering and how to avoid them. First, too vague, right? So the whole idea here, write something about AI, make it good. No, I want some feature in my code base that I need to do something, but you don't give so details, you don't understand, so the model is confused. You need to guess what you tell to the LLM. It's a weak prompt, right? For example, write a text about marketing. Okay, maybe write a LinkedIn post about the advantages of content marketing for B2B SaaS companies. So you set the tone, you set some examples, It's immediately clear to the model which platform, which audience, for example. It's not so vague to understand that. Too much information in the other way. So you give a lot of information, you are not so abstract, but write me a content marketing strategy, come up with 10 blog titles, write one full blog, make 3 months calendar, so you're giving so many details, which, it's overflowed. You have a token limit exceeded, most probably, and the context window is 100% full. That's it, the tokens, create another one. So too many tasks, conflicting goals, incomplete and confused output. We have the ignoring context. If you don't remind your model of the context, it can lose track of the conversation, and the conversation history we were talking before. For example, without context, what post should we publish next week? With context, we already planned 3 blogs, for example, about SEO trends. What post should we suggest for Instagram, let's say, next week to connect the content with those blogs? So you are giving the tone about a historical event, because a new session with your LLM may forget this conversation history you had. So you need always to not ignore the context. Otherwise, it will guess, maybe it will have an irrelevant information. So you need to make sure you stay on track on this. Forgetting the answer format, right? You don't have format. How do we develop a content marketing strategy, for example? You are inputting your prompt. A more clearer format would say, show me a content marketing strategy in a table with columns, content type, the target audience, distribution channels, goals. So when you ask for, tables, markdowns, and create some markdown, or do a step-by-step breakdown, the output, it's much clearer. We understand, and our model can pick the format, the actual format that we're guiding, not randomly. It can give an output that it's not a table, for example, it's unparsable or something like that. And this is one of the examples that you should always make sure you have the best format. The other one is not using roles. We said about this earlier, right? I'm a QA engineer. Right now I'm building agentic workflows. One of the things, if you are using Cloud or Cursor or whatever, you are creating your MD files, but in the back of your mind, you can create a role, how the coding assistant can perform. For example, if you're developing something and you're using AI. As I said earlier, I need to think as a senior engineer or a junior engineer, so the output, experiment a little bit, the output of the code quality will be different, right? So if I don't set a role, I'm a senior dev or junior or creative writer, I would say suggest some blog ideas, right? If I set a role, imagine you are a content marketing manager on an IT company and you sell software for small businesses, so you need to suggest some 5 blog topics that will help generate some leads. So a role helps align the tone and perspective with real needs. Not refining and adjusting. Rarely is the first answer perfect. You need to refine. It's an iteration. You need to adjust. First prompt can be, write a blog about email marketing. Then I need to say, focus on how small businesses can automate newsletter campaigns, right? Even more specific, you can say, write the text in the form of a guide with practical examples, so you set the tone. It's kind of chain of prompt, but it's like creating more attempts, guiding your model to the outcome that you want to have. Each step brings the answer closer to what exactly we're trying to achieve. And finishing off, the problem with ignoring ethics, no harmful content, write a blog that convinces people to buy by using fear of missing out. So you understand, we have a violation on ethics, so you need to have ethical prompts. write a blog, for example, that highlights the value and practical benefits of our product for users. So this way you build trust and a healthy relationship with your audience. Thank you very much. Sorry, I'm 1 minute late or more.
Thank you very much, Giannis. Any questions? Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. Have you applied any of these processes during quality assurance testing? And if yes, have you seen any actual improvement in quality and velocity?
Yes, very good question. Because QA, it's a domain that we don't think about it, because always we use AI to just help us improve the product or build something new on terms of the product, but not about what about the quality. Yes, I have been experimenting, I would say, because it's an experimentation. As I said, we are not talking about deterministic results. But I have some good workshops in Thessaloniki, maybe in September. I can sell some tickets. No, I'm kidding. About how you integrate these agentic workflows on QA. So prompt engineering is about creating the best format of how you orchestrate different agents to perform testing on your platform. Yes, I have done this. It's remarkable. Just like as you develop a feature without so much, coding, the same goes to quality assurance as well. You can test your system with not so much effort. And it's a very good question. I should have more time to just talk, but you can come to Thessaloniki if you want in September. Nice.
Okay. Any other question for Giannis? Okay, so with that, thank you very much.